Good morning, everybody. Happy Friday and welcome to the Rangers Review morning briefing for Friday, the 7th of April. I'm Derek Clark and I'm delighted to say I'm joined for the first time this week. Good things come to those who wait by Stevie Clifford. How are we doing, Stevie?
Morning, mate. You all right?
Absolutely fantastic. Cannot wait for tomorrow. I'm not quite sure if if you feel likewise. How are you feeling? I mean, are the butterflies setting in yet, Stevie?
No. See, before we start, Derek, we disclaimer. Good morning to everyone that's watching as well. But it's Easter holidays, Derek. So the kids are being shoved upstairs. There's a high percentile chance that one of them will burst through the door and be like, "Dad." So if I suddenly disappear for a second, you'll need to ad lib and get us through while I patch them back upstairs. I've told them under no uncertain terms, don't come downstairs. So, folks, if anyone bursts in shouting all sorts, then you know what's happened. But as for tomorrow, Derek, not the slightest bit of nerves. I don't expect anything. I can't expect anything from this group of players. So I spoke a wee bit about it yesterday in the article that I put out for Rangers Review. But sadly, I don't see anything from tomorrow at all, and it's very unstaunch and very unbelieving of me. But you know, in there with no fans, it's not like our squad have shown a good kind of backbone and balance going to that place recently. Anyway, so it's got all the hallmarks of a game where we're all watching it from behind the couch, I'm afraid.
Yeah, let's hope we're not doing that, Steve, but I totally understand where you're coming from with regards to that. Lots of comments coming in. Before we do that, folks, you know the drill by now. First of all, thank you to those of you who have subscribed to the YouTube channel. We've surpassed 12,000 subscribers now, so it's a big thank you from everyone at the Rangers Review. If you've not subscribed already, if you do so, you'll be treated to a daily briefing video through the week, and you'll also get videos from the Rangers press conferences and match day videos content as well. So you get pre-match reaction to the team news. You'll get that tomorrow. You'll also get post-match reaction videos as well. So it's very much worthwhile subscribing if you're a big YouTuber. And if you want to subscribe to the Rangers Review website and enjoy Stevie's piece, there's also a piece on there from myself this morning. I was lucky enough to speak to three players that have won at Parkhead: Davy Robertson, Gregory Vignal, and Nacho Novo. You can find that on there as well. And they've urged Rangers to be aggressive and get in the faces of Celtic tomorrow. If you want to read that and Stevie's piece, then head over to rangersreview.co.uk/subscribe. Just £2 for 2 months worth of content. Absolute bargain. Only £2.99 per month thereafter. Even at that, it's a really cracking value. So I'd urge you to go along and check it out. And a quick word for our podcast sponsors as well. Seneca Hair Restoration, the #1 hair transplant corporation in Europe. If you're looking to restore some lost self-confidence, then these are the guys to go to, folks. And as ever, I've put the links to their website and their social media accounts in the description box. Right, Stevie, let's crack on. Of course, just a heads up, folks, the press conference will take place this afternoon around about 1:15. Michael Beale and a Rangers player will be put up for the press to preview tomorrow's game at Parkhead. One of the big talking points I think that most fans will want to know, Stevie, is Nico Raskin fit? We believe that he is, and he's declared himself fit and ready to play. Would you throw him in after missing the last 3 weeks of football?
Oh, I'd throw him in with one leg, Derek. Never mind the last couple of weeks of training. Look, this is what I spoke about yesterday. If Rangers go with Glenn Kamara, John Lundstrom, and the ones that have failed before us, which is, predominantly them two guys, then it's not going to work. It needs to be brave. Todd Cantwell has to start. Nico Raskin has to start. And in the middle, you would go for Ryan Jack. Ryan Jack, Old Firm record, is slightly better. It's not ideal, but it's slightly better. And probably out of the midfielders you've got, he's the most mobile. He's the quickest on the ball. And he's able to put a wee bit of fight, a wee bit of dig in there. It's not ideal, but if you play Tillman and have him dropping in and stuff as well, which I would do, then you've got a bit of a base in there. So I would agree with the comments of the guys you interviewed, Derek, Vigneault, Novo and Robertson and that. That's what I said yesterday. Rangers need some balls. That's the kind of blunt way of saying it. We really need to get tore in. We need to get stuck in and make sure we win the battles. And John Lundstrom said last time after the League Cup game, he says he was 2 yards off every single time. Well, Rangers can't afford that. They have to ensure that they're on it tomorrow and win the battles and get in. And you know what, Derek? If Rangers don't win tomorrow, but they give me absolutely everything, and you can go off that park and say fine, then I won't be okay with it. But at least I'll understand it a wee bit more than getting the usual kind of sound bites and apologies and things afterwards, which I can't. Nobody can stand that anymore. The time for apologies and sorry we didn't turn up and we didn't put our best foot in. It's got to be the end of that. We need to go there, show our best face tomorrow, and then see what happens, because there's no other excuses left for this group of players. Michael Beale has to get his selection right. Nico Raskin, to go back to your very, very first point, I don't care if he's not trained in 8 years, he would play tomorrow for me. So he's that important. And to be honest, Derek, as well, in a midfield which have suffered so much, especially at their place, he doesn't have that. Todd Cantwell doesn't have that. Ryan Jack's not overly affected by that either. So get them in and play them.
Yeah. Lots of comments coming. I'll try to get to a few of them, folks. First of all, Jamie says if we beat them tomorrow, it narrows it down to 6 points. Let's see how their bottle is. A lot of people have been saying that. I mean, Celtic are playing at the moment with no pressure, really. They're going into games. Even last week, it was funny. I was down at Wembley for the Papa John's Trophy final and speaking to John McGinley, former Scotland striker and big Celtic fan, Bolton legend down there.
He's from Port William, Derek, like me.
He is actually, yeah. Cracking big guy, John. And he was nervous about Celtic's trip to Dingwall. He thought that they would slip up and drop points. But listen, it's good enough Rangers beating Celtic the next 2 times in the league, but you're struggling to see where they're dropping points to anyone else in the league. The Old Firm are just so far ahead of everyone else at this moment in time. It defies belief. The gap is huge. So yeah. Listen, I get Jamie's point there, but I think the league for me, realistically, is going to be one step too far. Lots of comments. Let's get to a few of them. John Adams says, what are Celtic's weaknesses? I think they don't last 90 minutes. The thing with that, Stevie, is I think we've discussed this in the Old Firm games previously, whereby it's okay saying they don't last 90 minutes, but Ranger, the game's been done at Parkhead the last 2 times out of 3 in the first half an hour. Rangers need to start well, don't they? It's this whole they can't give Celtic time on the ball. They need to get in their faces and make life uncomfortable for them, because it's okay not lasting 90 minutes, but if the game's done in 30, then the game's a bogey.
We're full of the good news this morning, aren't we?
Yeah.
Look, what are Celtic's weaknesses? Their goalkeeper, their centre backs, their full backs are very advanced. Their midfield strong. Their attack is very quick, very good in the press. They don't stop, unfortunately, to use that phrase. Yeah. But what Rangers have to do is keep it tight and keep it compact. They need to get through the first 10 minutes, which will be like an absolute whirlwind. Yeah. But what they need to do in return to that is when they get the ball, get it forward quickly. Because if they get it forward quickly, and this is where my kind of formation choices would go, if they get it forward quickly, they've got a chance to exploit them because they are so advanced and they are push on so much that spaces are there. The problem is that this is what happens to them in Europe. And the problem that Scottish teams have is that they can't do it. They can't breach that. So Rangers need to stand up for it. And they know that it's going to be quick. It's going to be fast. They're going to come at us. But we need to switch on from set plays, from throw-ins. We need to make sure we stop that ball going across the face of goal, which hurts us so many times. So we know what to expect. They know what our weaknesses are, but their weaknesses we can, if we manage to sit in and we're compact and we're organised, and then we can quickly spring Tillman, Kent, maybe Sakala is how I would go with the front 3, then we could really hurt them. So it's a difficult one. It's a different kind of proposition than what we're used to. And this is what you said, Derek. That what you said there is absolutely fine. I agree with it completely. We are miles ahead of everybody else, and we're not anywhere near where we want to be.
Yeah.
Which is why, Jamie's saying that, get it down to 6 points. We would have to beat them again. Then they would have to get beat by somebody else or draw twice, or get beat and draw because their goal difference is so far ahead. So this is clutching. What I want, Derek, and what I would like before the end of the season is we put them on notice, which is here's a marker, starts tomorrow, go and press them, go and get into them, see where it takes us, go and win that semi-final, which is the most important, and then take them back to Ibrox. So that's the way it's got to be. There's been a lot of talking done. James Tavernier, John Lundstrom, Connor Goldson. We need to show a better footing. We need to win our battles. Well, you do, but how many times have you said it? So forgive me if I'm not overjoyed by the prospect of it, Derek, but we've seen this so many times. The 3-0 and the 4-0 in the last year were pitiful. So in order for that not to happen, we need a big swing, which I'm not sure they're capable of. But maybe if he goes with Cantwell and Raskin, then that you'll get a different type of energy in there, which we need.
Yeah, it's a view echoed by Neil McLean just regards to the battle. He says, got to win the battle before we win the war. Like you guys said, borderline red card performance from Rangers. We can beat them. Incidentally, that's funny enough, when I was speaking to Nacho Novo, he said very much similar to that. He says, don't do anything stupid like getting red carded, but play on on the edge. That's all we ask. I think that they put. I mean that League Cup final defeat, there was a feeling of deflation. I know when the team was announced, but the fact that they never gave what we expected them to in that showpiece final. As long as they leave it out on everything out on the pitch, then I don't think you can have too many arguments against them if they do that, because they haven't turned up recently at Parkhead. Of that there is no doubt. Of course, the match when Sakala scored that goal and hit the post, of course, after equalising, that was a decent performance from the team on that day. But we all know about the calamity in February of last year, of course, and then the match in August, I think, at the tail end of was it September, August time, at Parkhead earlier on in the season, which was an absolute disaster as well. We just want to avoid a repeat of that showing. Nice comment here from Stuart Gilroy. Says, morning guys from East Belfast, great show, good to have you at your company, Stuart. You mentioned Tillman, Stevie. CGM 55 says, what about Tillman? Does he have to start? For me, he does have to start. And like you, my predicted lineups will be out soon on the website, folks. I'm playing him in that sort of false nine, if you like, up top, instead of Antonio Cholak and Alfredo Morelos, who we'll touch on a little later on. But Tillman to lead the line, Stevie, is that the best option for you?
Yeah, it is. And the thing about, if you stick Kent, Tillman, and Sakala up there, then what I like about that is that you don't need to play a 3. You can play 2 and 1, or you can play 1 and 2. I would play Kent and Sakala as my front men in a 2, because their pace and the way they move can hurt. But all 3 of them can rotate. They can all move, and you want Tillman and Cantwell linking up as well. What about Tillman? Does he have to start? The simple answer to that is yes. He has to start. He has to start every game. But we're back to where we were pre the League Cup, when I said that Malik Tillman owes us a performance in these games. Owes us, you can take that whatever way you want. But we need a big performance from him. He needs to show a much better face in these games, as the players say, and as the players talk about. We really need that from him. He's got 3 Old Firm games. Malik Tillman starts in Rangers team every single week. In an ideal world, we pay the money for him. So he absolutely does have to start. But pace on the break, hitting them hard is what we need to do. So Kent, Sakala, Tillman is exactly what I would be for the front men, Derek. Not so sure about a false 9 as such. I would just rotate instead of it being wide 3, which I don't think works against them, 2 and 1 is where I would be.
Yeah. Yeah, interesting. And there's a comment coming in from Ian Ross. This ties in with a piece that created quite a debate on social media yesterday, I think it was. Will Michael Beale play Yilmaz tomorrow? I don't think he will, Stevie. I think the team that we've seen at Dundee United suggested that Borna Barisic will keep the shirt for the trip to Parkhead tomorrow. He was an unused sub, of course, Ridvan Ibrox. I would be really, really surprised if the Turk was to start tomorrow. That's not to say I think he should be thrown in. I mean, he's a Turkish international. He's played for Besiktas in some of the most intimidating derbies in football, of course, over there in Turkey. There is question marks, of course, over his physicality and if he's robust enough to play in Scottish football. But for me, I think Barisic gets a nod. In saying that, he can't afford another disaster of a performance. I'm having nightmares of that ball whipped across the face, Stevie, and he's on his haunches, and there's a Celtic player nipping in at the back post. He has to have a good game tomorrow, Barisic.
That was me just shouting at the kids.
Yes, yeah, kept going for a while.
Everyone catch that. Will we start tomorrow? I don't. It's like, listen, it's a good question. The problem I've got here is that how many chances do you give Borna Barisic before you repeat and see the same thing? You know, we're talking about John Lundstrom, Glenn Kamara not playing them because of obvious failures. I'm not so sure that we can trust Borna Barisic not to have another kind of Holocaust there, which he does on a regular basis. You know, you've got that embarrassing situation where they're shouting at him and stuff like that. So I don't, you know, this is another thing as well. When Yilmaz started a couple of weeks ago, was it Motherwell he started away? They were firing the long ball at him every single time, and he was up against a big guy. Didn't lose headers. He wasn't bullied. He wasn't pushed out the way. He was a bit, I don't know if he was slightly caught for the first goal, understand that. But, you know, a minute in, he was tucking in. Was he told to do that? Whatever. He was a wee bit caught there, and the wide man got the ball in. That can happen. But we really need a strong performance. You know, I would be really tempted to play Yilmaz as well. And at some point, Derek, we've got to we've got to figure out if he's good enough, this boy. You know, he was good enough to start in Napoli. He did all right out in Napoli, if I remember correctly. So it's a fair question. I think it's a fair question. It's a bit of a case of, you know, if you try the same thing over and over, where are you going to be? But I would think as well, you know, I'm with Darren here a wee bit as well. I think Borna does play because Yilmaz hasn't in recent weeks. If Yilmaz had built it up and been playing recently, then I would say yeah. But yeah, I think Borna starts. But if I was picking and I was allowed to select it, then that would be a big decision for me because you wouldn't want to repeat the same things that have happened before. So it's a decent enough question, and it's a decent enough conundrum for Michael Beale. How do you ensure that Borna doesn't slip back into Borna mode? Then it's a really big one. But at the same time, Borna's been decent going forward. So there's a lot in there to unpack, I think.
Yeah. Just to admit, I said I would touch on Morelos' story yesterday. I think it's widely anticipated he'll be departing Ibrox in the summer. Kenny McIntyre on the BBC said that Morelos, I'm told he's gone. The manager doesn't see him as part of his plans. Now, apparently, there's a host of English clubs keen on signing him, namely Wolves, Crystal Palace, Everton, Burnley, Middlesbrough. And there's one more, for the life of me, I can't remember who. But there's a number of clubs that are interested in acquiring him in the summer. I think it's widely expected he'll leave, Stevie. But what do you make of this? Will Morelos get a look in from here on in? But I think as long as he's fit and available, he's still an asset, I think, for Rangers, and it would be folly not to utilise him from here until the end of the season. Would you disagree?
I think it's amazing that certain people, you know, are able to say, I've been told, I've been this, I've been that, because Rangers aren't communicating anything with anybody We can all have our opinions on what's going to happen. I have mine. But to be able to say, I've been told, who's he been told by? The bin man? Anybody. So it's a load of trajectory. It's a load of, I was going to say nonsense, but it's an opinion of somebody that he thinks he's done or whatever, then fine. Listen, Derek, I've said this before, and, you know, Alfredo Morelos is loved by the Rangers fans, and if you're critical, and if you criticise him, then you yourself come in for a lot of criticism. But I'll miss Alfredo Morelos of 2019. I will not miss the current version of Alfredo Morelos, which is a long way, miles away from being good enough for what we need. He's not lethal enough. He's not sharp enough. And that's just the truth. So sometimes, and I've been quite persistent with this, sometimes big decisions have to be made for the greater good of the club and the team. I don't think his contract situation should ever have been allowed to get in this position. I think that's contributed to a lot of things. He had a really bad injury, and he's maybe not recovered the way he is. But I wouldn't have Alfredo Morelos anywhere near the team tomorrow, and I wouldn't in the semi-final or anything coming up. There's a lot of what I think is romanticisation of what's going to, or how he performed in that League Cup final. Up until he scored that goal, he wasn't in it at all. He was miles off it.
But we sat next to each other and said he should be getting taken off just prior to him scoring the goal. But then that's when he started looking sharp, which was
that
ironic.
was probably, you know, Michael Beale probably made the decision before the goal, and it was probably wrong.
Yeah.
After that, and I know a lot of people will maybe, you know, disagree and criticise that, but I just think it's time to move on from that, Derek. I don't think he's shown enough at all for me in the games to warrant him playing or starting. Antonio Cholak come on and had 2 good games, and he's not performed. He was really bad at Motherwell, so he's now out of the team. So I just think the time for Alfredo Morelos has come and gone. He's not the only one of the players that are going out of contract. And yeah, look, I love Alfredo. I'll miss him greatly. I won't miss this current version of him. I just think it's time for change on that. People say, you know, he offers you so much and we're so much better with him in the team and stuff like that. I think we are better with him in the team at the moment, but we're nowhere near where we need to be. It's still miles away from what we need from a front man and from a number 9. So I'm sorry, Derek. I just think that, you know, for Rangers and Alfredo Morelos, I think it's time that we shook hands and just says, you know, go your own way. And he needs a new challenge. He needs a freshness. He needs somebody that's able to get the best fitness and everything out of him, the best sharpness. And I'm not saying that I don't buy into the fact that he's big or he's massive or anything. Like, some people are just differently built and look bigger and everything. I think Alfredo is that, because I've seen Alfredo at the training ground wearing t-shirts and everything. He looks great.
Yeah.
But he's not sharp, Derek. He's not max fit. See that burst of speed that he used to have that would take him away from defenders, and that turn and everything else, it's no longer there. And if we're honest, which I try and be, that's not been there for a long time. So that was his real power and pace. He used to be able to scalp the ball. He had a really good shot on him. I've not seen that in a long time. It just flukes and feels to me like the Morelos that everybody talks about and how we're going to miss him and how they would play him in the big games and all that. That was Morelos 3 years ago. It's not now. Yeah. So for me, on that question, and it's difficult, I realize, look, he's loved and I'll get a lot of criticism probably for saying it, but I just think it's time for change when it comes to Alfredo. I would shake his hand and wish him all the best.
Yeah. It certainly looks like his time is coming to an end.
He certainly wouldn't start tomorrow for me.
Yeah, just on his physique, a lot of comments on that, of course. Andrew says, I love folk who haven't exercised since high school PE, commenting on Morelos' physique as well. Listen, he is a professional footballer, but you're right, Steve, it's match sharpness that he's been well off it.
I'd like to make that clear as well. I'm in no position, Derek, to be talking about fitness and people looking a wee bit bigger and stuff like that. I'm talking about match sharpness.
Yeah.
I'm talking about Alfredo sharpness where he was before. where he had that quick burst, where he had the ability to turn and twist, get away from defenders with a half yard. Goals like we've seen at Easter Road. We've not seen anything like that from Alfredo in a very long time. The ability for Alfredo to strike the ball really well and stuff like that. If you look at the efforts he's been having, he's not been able to do that.
Yeah.
So my criticism is nothing to do with his physique or where he is. As I said, complimented the guy. He looked great when I seen him up at training ground. Genuinely, he did. So I think it's just some players look different. Some players are slender and slight and things. I don't think he is that. Doesn't mean he's fat though. So I agree with that. You know, people aren't in a position. I totally understand that. That's not what I'm getting at here. I'm talking about match sharpness and the ability to play the way we need him and the way a number 9 we need. He doesn't have that.
Yeah.
So we need a mobile number 9.
Yeah, interesting point from James Strachan. It ties in with what Michael Beale has said in press conferences before. He says Buff was hungry, but no longer. He said there's certain players that have sort of came to the end of the Rangers road, if you like, and he has to decide if they're hungry enough to go again. And it was interesting. I thought, I mean, I love Michael Beale's press conferences. There's so many bits of information that come out from them. But last week I thought was interesting, Steve. I don't know if it was your question you posed to him, but he says decisions have already been made with regards to it next season, which I thought was really interesting because it was asked about out of contract players and about discussions that have been taking place during that international break. But it's clear that he has a plan in place for next season. I know he said as well the team will look completely different after the 11 games have been played, which is intriguing and fascinating as well, because next season is going to be an altogether different team, but exciting as well, because if it can bring players of the caliber of Raskin and Cantwell in for nominal fees, if you like, then that certainly will increase optimism across the Rangers support that he can build a successful side here. Yeah,
I've got a lot of faith in Michael Beale and his ability and his eye for a player. So I don't really have an issue with that. He managed to find quite a few gems before he spotted Bassey. You know, there's been a lot of criticism of Ross Wilson, particularly by me. This is really last chance saloon for him, I think. I don't see there being any changes there, despite what we as a fan base might want or might want questions answered or whatever. But I feel that with the guidance of Beale and Beale's eyes and his decisions, because he told us in no uncertain terms, he's going to be the man leading recruitment and he's going to be the one making the decisions. So that was one of my big questions. Then we've covered it plenty of times. So with that, I'm a wee bit more comfortable. And it needs to be more. It needs to be players with energy. It needs to be players with that drive. It needs to be players with the hunger that Raskin and Cantwell certainly seem to have. So I'm looking. Look, there's good things for Rangers tomorrow that we can watch and we can see. Things that I'm looking for, Derek, for example, Ben Davies. Can Ben Davies perform there and really defend and really put in a performance, backs to wall defending? Maybe not seen that off him yet. Doesn't mean he can't do it, but that's what I'm looking. So can he do that? Can Todd Cantwell perform in a game where he's got to press, he's got to harry, he's got to win the ball, he doesn't have possession all the time? Can Raskin do the same? Can Malik Tillman put in that big performance up front that we need? Does Ryan Kent still have the hunger? Because as much as I talk about Alfredo Morelos, Ryan Kent's in exactly the same position. I watched Ryan Kent last week. I gave him, rating-wise, Derek, 5 out of 10. I thought he was awful. Thought his attitude, everything about it. He's still busy, never hides. He's still in and about it. But he had question marks surrounding him, or as much surrounding Alfredo. It's the exact same for me. So, you know, I'm one of the ones that said I would do everything to keep Ryan Kent. I would, but I wouldn't keep Ryan Kent last week. He's got to give us more. So this is a big game for those boys. And then you've got the likes of Tavernier, everybody else around it. So from a Rangers viewpoint, which I watch for, obviously, which we all watch for, there's lots of questions. And it's a big game time for them. And that's exciting for me. I want to see how these guys respond. I want to see how they stand up to things. And I want to see what they do. You know what I mean? Yeah. So if we're 3-0 down after half an hour again, it's only going to reconfirm the things that I've said on this channel about needing a rebuild. Michael Beale says he needs a revamp. Slightly different terminology, maybe slightly different ends of the spectrum, But if we go there tomorrow and disaster happens, I'll be saying, this is why I'm talking about a rebuild. If it doesn't, Michael Beale will say, this is why we want a revamp. That's what I spoke about in the article yesterday as well. So it's worth kind of checking that out again. And that's basically what I talk about. This could define the next 6 or 7 weeks. People will point to the results and say, this is why I'm saying my argument. But I do hope, Derek, for Michael Beale's sake, he's had such a wonderful 4 or 5 months. He's done really well. The results have been great. League Cup aside, you asked me a couple of weeks ago how I rated him. I said 10. I still believe that. I really do. I think he's done excellent. I think he's punched above his weight in many ways with this squad. I really hope over the next 6 weeks when we play them 3 times, the squad doesn't collapse for him, because it would be really unfair on the work he's done. So, big 6 weeks, but it's exciting. Let's see what this bunch under Michael Beale will do, how they will respond, and even a wee bit, Derek, if they can prove me wrong. So,
yeah,
we'll see what happens.
Yeah. Before we finish up, just one last point, Stevie, we'll just touch on. There was a couple of comments that came in that I spotted there. Wee Scottish guy says, will Michael Beale go with a back 3, at least for the first half, to keep it tight and avoid being run over early doors? I'm not entirely sure. I think we see sort of a fluid change of shape in game these days when it comes to Rangers. We've seen it a wee bit against Dundee United. Can you see them going with a back 3 just to try and continue? I think that's asking for trouble myself, Stevie.
Well, it is if you drop John Lundstrom back in there.
Yeah.
Then I think it is. So if John Souttar had more game time, and I really rate John Souttar, I think he's an excellent defender. I think he's excellent on the ball, and I think he's got a real chance. Fitness-wise, that's your big issue there. But if he had played more, Derek, if he had dropped back into that shape more often, if we had tried it more often, I would have said, yeah, there's a real chance he might spring a surprise and go for that. And I could see that working, or I could see his thinking behind trying to make that work. So that's an interesting question. Just because of lack of game time with that shape and stuff, I'm not so sure he will. That's my only reservation. Only reservation.
Yeah. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how Rangers line up tomorrow. As ever, as I mentioned, folks, we'll get all the reaction to Michael Beale's press conference a little later on this afternoon.
Sorry, just 1 second, mate. See, before we go, how would you line up? You've not answered yet, so what would you do?
Yeah, my predicted lineups will be on the website today. I'm keeping the same team as Dundee United, although Raskin comes in for Lundstrom and Tillman up top as the the sort of Joe Aribo type leading the line up there for me, with Sakala one side, Kent on the other, Jack, obviously Cantwell and Raskin in the middle. I think that's the strongest team that Rangers can opt for. Like you, I would have no qualms if Redvan was given the nod. I think he offers Rangers something different. It will make Celtic. I don't think Celtic would be expecting that for a start. So yeah, that's the team I would go for. Stevie, would you deviate from that any?
That's the team I picked yesterday on the article. Cantwell, Jack, Raskin, Kent, Tillman, and Sakala. Wouldn't be a 3 though. I would slightly change that to the way it's been 2 and 1, or 2 up top, 1 behind, or 2 behind and 1, with them moving about, is what I said yesterday I would do. I think the back 5 more or less picks itself, because Borna has been such a steady. But that, if we turned up tomorrow and Yilmaz was in on the left, I wouldn't be disappointed. So it's one of those ones for me. And for that, it's a big selection dilemma for Michael Beale maybe in there. But I'm the same as you, mate. We went the same. Interesting to see what Michael Beale does.
Yeah, it certainly will be. Okay, big thanks to Stevie as ever. Like I mentioned, folks, we'll have that press conference on our YouTube channel and on the website a little later on. We'll also have all the pre-match and post-match video content for you tomorrow as well. And hopefully we're reporting on another Rangers victory and a morale-boosting win over Celtic at that too. Big thanks to everyone for interacting with the show, and we'll speak to you again a little later on. Bye for now.